I am making a roguelike game where you fight enemies in fast-paced combat. In this update I have been working on improving the combat by making new mechanics that furthermore encourage players to fight aggressively. To start this off, I made a new mechanic called vulnerability. Basically I was thinking that players should be rewarded for damaging an enemy that is attacking instead of just dodging his attack. So if you hit an enemy while he is attacking, you deal extra 50% damage to him. It is quite a powerful change, but most importantly really fun, especially when you almost one-shot someone. You can just use the spear's heavy attack and drive by a fool under a tree. You can easily see that the enemy is vulnerable by his aim line being visible, and if you hit him while he is vulnerable, this small pop particle appears. Next, I made it so that when you are on your last health, killing an enemy heals you 1 HP. I absolutely love this because imagine this situation. You are on your last health, so you play defensively until you heal yourself or until you die, slowing down the whole gameplay flow. With this mechanic, instead of being a rat hiding, you instead think to yourself, I'll just kill someone. The same thing you have been doing until now, and I like that. Following that, I reworked an old mechanic called bloodlust. Before, when you killed someone, you would get extra damage and movement speed buff, but I didn't like that. I changed it so now when you hit an enemy, you get a bloodlust stack. For each stack you gain extra 10% damage, and you can have a maximum of 3 stacks and you lose the stacks over time. I changed it because the bloodlust would be useless in boss fights and not so good with high HP enemies. The player's character has undergone some heavy training through which he learned the amazing skill of deflecting projectiles. You can now deflect projectiles by hitting them with your weapon to make them flip and change targets. At first, a single projectile could be deflected multiple times, almost like playing some ping pong as you can see, but I removed it because it was weird. For this system to work properly, I had to rewrite the whole targeting / hitbox system, but now I am also able to make NPCs that would fight in combat against other enemies. In this clip, the bandit is considered as an NPC that is fighting against 2 enemies. This will be useful later on if I ever decide to make some NPC companions in the game. Next big move towards this game having more variety and actually being a proper roguelike is adding more weapons. Before this update there were just this basic sword and spear that didn't have anything special about them. What I did is that I coded a really cool system that allows me to create versions of these weapons by taking their data and overriding it to create different weapons. Using this new system I created 2 new swords. First sword is the eyeball sword. Your finisher attack shoots a projectile that pulls enemies towards you while also dealing some damage. This weapon is heavily inspired by the enemy eyeball, which I plan to do with future weapons and abilities as well. Basically, by killing enemies, you will unlock some knowledge on them, through which you will be able to unlock new weapons, abilities and power-ups that you will encounter on your run, and even permanent upgrades. The other sword I made is the bandit sword. Your attacks cause longer stuns by about 20%. Once again, the weapon design is inspired by the weapons bandits use. Next I added into the game weapon scaling. Basically you start in the first half of the map and the weapons and abilities that spawn there are level 1. But once you reach the second half of the map, level 2 weapons and abilities start to spawn, so they will deal more damage. This way players will get stronger as they move closer to the end of the biome. However, it is important to know that these levels only affect the player and his strength, not the enemies. What I will do in future to make the game more difficult as you progress is mechanic called hunted. Each time you move on the map you will gain 1 hunted point. After you reach a certain number of these hunted points, you will get the first hunted level. This will cause more enemies to spawn in all rooms. The second hunted level will cause stronger versions of enemies to spawn. For example, a stronger version of this enemy, the bandit arbalest, would shoot 3 projectiles at once in these directions, plus he would have some extra health. If you reach the third hunted level, you will become literally hunted. These hunter tiles will appear on the map, and if they touch your player tile, a combat will start, where you will have to fight against 3 or 4 buffed enemies. These tiles will use pathfinding to go straight towards you on the map, so I'm really excited when I get to work on it in the next devlog. So, the game becomes more difficult the longer you are in this biome, but you will also get stronger and be able to defend yourself better once you reach the second half of the biome. The combat is finally coming together and I'm definitely on the right path towards making the game I'm hoping to make. In the next update I will be building upon the roguelike aspect of this game by making the hunted mechanic and other mechanic tied to a bit of monster hunting or just monster genocide. Depends on your point of view. Bye bye. Subscribe.